everybody can keep the customers used to it.
You want to turn the audio
I
mic
don't
on?
turn your mic on either. Nope. Is your mic on, Hattie? Your mic? Your mic off?
I'm gonna be quiet, no.
It's on the back one.
I don't really need one, I thought loud enough, I don't like to have one.
You said it, not me.
Oh, I know, I talk loud. Always have. So. Monday. Yep. I'm scared. I don't know why. It's gonna be a big. My surgery's Monday. Big surgery.
On what end?
On what end? My left knee. I'm having a knee replacement. Oh. Well, they said that since I'm already on a pain medicine, that they will probably keep me just to make sure that it's under control for the thing. Yeah, they don't want me to go home and it not be under control. I have to go back to the hospital. But I've been vaccinated, but I still got to get checked for COVID. So. Tested light tonight. That's cool. Hey, how y'all doing?
Good.
Good.
Hello, welcome everyone to the May 6th work session of the City of Statham. I will call the meeting to order, and we will say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll do roll call. Everyone is present but Mayor Piper. And I want to remind everyone to keep Mayor Piper in your prayers. As I understand, he's making some good progress on getting better and getting back. His oxygen levels are improving. There's lots of indicators that he's going to come back and be just fine. But your prayers are appreciated, and we ask that you continue to pray for our mayor and his health and his family. I do have an announcement about our water. A brief announcement about our water. We had a water break on Juliestown Road earlier today. As of 4 o'clock, the break had been repaired. But what happens when we have a break or a disturbance in the water system? The back pressure, it gives it a chance to get bacteria in the lines, and when you turn it back on, it can be bacteria in your lines. So there is a boil advisory in effect until we get our test results back from the EPA. And that could be anywhere from 24 to 48 hours, but as I understand, at 4 o'clock when they put the system back online, we have a sample. It has been sent off to the EPA and Commerce, and the boil advisory will not be lifted until we get our results back from Commerce. So just remember, if you're listening online or you're in the audience or you have family members, that the boil advisory is still in effect. Okay? Moving on to our items on our agenda. The first item is our livestock in residential areas. We'll discuss the proposed amendments to the Unified Development Code for livestock in residential areas. Now,
Would you like me to take over?
I would like you to
absolutely.
read it and then I'll.
Well, sure. So, I need to advise the council of exactly what it is what we are doing tonight. So, because of the way that the calendar fell, and because this is an amendment to the Unified Development Code, we are required to advertise for a period of 15 days. Based upon when this was completed, we would not have been able to meet the 15-day requirement for today's meeting. So, tonight is going to be a discussion of the draft ordinance to discuss what has been presented and any issues that may happen. And then what we will do is we'll advertise this month for the next work session. That'll be the first reading, and then the adoption will, up or down, yes or no, will happen the business meeting in June.
Okay.
Okay? But I met with Councilmember Crawley, who wanted me to look at the various issues and various provisions that the Unified Development Code had relative to livestock and chickens in residential areas. And so y'all have a draft of what was discussed and what we came up with. I'll flag for y'all the highlights, and then if y'all have any specific questions or thoughts, y'all get to debate and discuss. First of all, there's several different components. The first thing you need to know is that the table 2.1 of the Unified Development Code, that's the table that specifies different uses and which zoning districts that they are permitted in. Currently, livestock is only allowed in, make sure I'm reading this right, RR and MH, rural residential and manufactured housing. We're going to be amending Table 2.1 to make it a permitted use in all of the residential zoning districts except for UR. So the RR, MH, HR, SR1, and SR2. Now that is for chickens specifically. There is a backyard chicken section under agricultural uses. For other animals like horses, cows, llamas, sheep, pigs, those kinds of animals, those are the requirements of our code is that they have to be within suitable animal quarters, and we have made those a conditional use for RR, MH, HR, SR1, and SR2. The conditional use means that they have to apply for and be granted a conditional use permit, and so there's a certain amount of administrative oversight as well as council oversight if you're going to allow for those types of animals, and of course that depends upon the specific circumstances of the property and what have you. So that's big change number one. For chickens specifically, we're reducing the minimum lot size from 1 acre down to a quarter acre, or 10,890 square feet. If your property is half acre or less, limit of 6 hens. Anything over a half acre, maximum of 12. And no roosters, that's already in the code, so no change there. We changed some of the definitions just to kind of make it clear relative to animal quarters. What does that mean as far as temperature, ventilation, sanitation, those types of things. Let's see here, what are the other ones that need to be discussed? So, the number of animals is driven primarily by two factors. Number one is the size of the housing area, animal quarters. So you must have, for example, I'll use horses. The way that this grid works on the proposed ordinance is for horses or other equines, you must have a housing area of at least 100 square feet per animal. Additionally, you must have a minimum fenced land area of, and it's per animal. So for a horse, it's got to be 2 acres. For cows, it's got to be 1 acre. A goat, a quarter acre. Sheep, quarter acre. Neil, et cetera, et cetera. There's no free roam, so no free range, must be housed and fenced appropriately. And then the other is that animal quarters, we set setback limits. Originally it was 75 feet, that was just copied from other jurisdictions. There was some hesitation amongst council about that, saying that it might be too restrictive. So the proposal, the draft you have right now is 35 feet from a property line. I think that summarizes all of the changes as proposed. I'm happy to answer any questions or, and I'll take notes, and if anybody wants a particular amendment, we can make it now, finalize the draft, and then that's what will be advertised for the June meetings.
I appreciate it, Counselor. One thing I would like to say is that this by no means was, talked about dogs or cats. No. I think that something has kind of got out there that had to do with dogs and cats, and this is not what we're talking about here. What we have tried to do very carefully is to make amendments that are pro-animals and then those that just don't want to look at them. Say, for instance, you got a neighbor that don't want to look at your chickens, then it's going to be up to that homeowner's expense to enclose that area, okay? So, you know, we can't make provisions for people who have chickens and rabbits and whatnot and then not make, you know, amendments or things for people that don't want them or don't want to see them. So that's what, that I think we actually, I think we actually got that down pretty good here, Council. Ma'am.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is that okay if I ask him a question?
That's the man.
Sure it is.
Thank you. Sorry, ma'am. Now, we're speaking of livestock, and you were talking about the acreage minimum, and you were using horses and llamas and those things. What about rabbits? Where do they fall?
Rabbit, there's a specific provision in here on rabbits.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I did have one question.
Y'all.
Yes, sir. That was brought to my attention, by a citizen that I didn't think of. How do we handle, when rabbits multiply and have babies or a horse? At what point would that count against the total number?
The day they're born.
The day they're born, even if they haven't been weaned off their mother? Okay.
So we probably need to put a provision in there to at least let the animal get weaned, I would assume.
If they make certain provisions though, that, you know, because you don't know how many bunnies you're gonna be in a litter either, so.
You had a question, ma'am?
So I sort of a comment on, to follow on that. So I'm a veterinarian, and I also have a lot of experience with animal welfare. I actually am researching rabbits right now.
Okay.
When it comes to regulations regarding rabbits, they are not considered to be counted against the number of rabbits until they're weaned. So just when it comes to legality, they are not considered rabbits on the premise until they are weaned from their mother.
That depends upon the jurisdiction. It all, 100% depends upon the way that the ordinance is drafted.
Which is
And the way it's currently drafted, it is, no, this is not USDA, this is the city.
Yeah.
Different organization. So our current regulations, there's no distinction between newborn, foal,
But we may need to do that, is what I'm saying.
yeah, that's what.
You're right about that, that we've, as a matter of fact, we've already been to the USDA on a couple of occasions that have went out to this couple's home and found no objections to what they saw whatsoever, so, you know, so I guess whatever, it's Barrow County, right? It would be Barrow County or the city?
The city.
Okay.
This is the city's regulations.
Okay.
Now, don't get me wrong, what the city cannot do
Mhm.
is we cannot change other jurisdictions that may have authority. So for example, if the USDA has jurisdiction, their regulations are what they are, we can't change them. We can impose different regulations and different rules,
Yeah.
but understand, so it has to meet both.
Yeah, I think.
It's not, I satisfy the cities and therefore it's legal. If the USDA or some other Department of Agriculture or state says no, they trump.
Yeah, I've talked to them on a couple of occasions, so we're good inside the city limits, but I don't think I would put any more restrictions what we have or leniency on what we have.
So does the council just informally want me to make a provision that the animal only counts after it's weaned?
I'm okay with
I
that.
would think so, because otherwise the animal would probably die.
I mean, the only thing I would recommend, or not recommend, but the only thing I would advise you legally is the person who enforces this is the code enforcement officer. Code enforcement officers aren't really trained on animal care, so making distinctions about when an animal is and is not weaned is, you're asking a whole lot of the code enforcement officer.
Right, I got you.
Just FYI.
Miss Betty?
Okay, let me ask you, if your animals are inspected by agriculture or anybody else, do they have to be inspected more than one time and?
That, I can't answer that question, I don't know.
That's USDA, Mandy, that's not us.
All I can answer is what this proposal says.
What, I would like to answer.
Well, I'll tell you my input. The people that want the chickens and the rabbits and what have you, they already have them. I can go along with putting the pens behind the house, doing away with the roosters, but I can't go along with this lot size. With all the subdivisions that's wanting to come in, and we reduce that lot down to 1/4 of an acre, then we're gonna have chickens in everybody's backyard. Then we're gonna have a problem.
Okay, so are you okay with like a half acre?
I'm okay with the acre like it is.
Okay.
Because when you put the house and your other little outbuildings, there's not a lot of open room. And, I mean, like everybody knows, right across in front of my house, there's a pen with chickens.
Most people
They are
I know
clean.
don't have an acre cleared.
Well, we can't have that. But I never have a problem with them. They don't smell, they're very clean.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that's why I was trying to make provisions for everybody. So
Well,
if you didn't want to see them, that they would have to be enclosed.
well, like I said, I think when we go to 1/4 of an acre, we're gonna have chickens in everybody's store.
But you're not okay with half either,
No.
okay? Miss Annie?
I agree with her.
Okay.
I don't have any, I don't plan on getting any, but I think that whatever decision is made, I think the citizens of the state inside the city limits should agree to it, make preparations to agree to it. If they're over the size of however many you've got, and you need to reduce it, do it. That's all.
I'd just like to make a quick note.
I think the biggest problem is people hearing the roosters crow.
Mhm.
They don't like to hear that. So if we do away with the roosters, and I think I think it'll go away.
Just so we're aware, roosters are currently prohibited.
No.
Our Uniform Development Code currently prohibits roosters. So if there are roosters, those properties are in violation of our Uniform Development Code as it's currently
And
drafted.
I think that's the biggest thing that people are complaining, is the noise. Because, like I say, they'll cross in front of me, they crow day and night. But, I mean, they don't bother me, but I know they bother other people. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with people having animals. Like I said in the last workshop, I just soon to see a pen full of chickens as a pen full of dogs barking all night, same difference. Everybody likes a different animal, so. But I just think 1/4 of an acre, if that's all you've got, time you allow for your house and whatever, I mean, you're not gonna have a very big pen.
Yeah, but what I was saying though, if we took the 1/4 of an acre out, we took that out, you're still not good with it.
No, I mean, there's just not that much room on a 1/2 an acre, can it?
Yeah, and okay, so we got like 98% of the people in this town that got them do not have that acre, that amount of acreage, and the only thing is that if we don't change anything, then everybody is going to have to be treated the same way. If they're gonna have to get rid of their animals, then all of them are gonna get rid of their animals.
I think the ones that's already here, we've all been knowing it for years.
Yes, we have.
And nothing has been said,
Mm-hmm.
and I think if they go by the pen size,
Mm-hmm.
not having a rooster, I think they should be grandfathered in.
Okay,
Amen.
all right, I think that can even go along with that. What you got to say, Dwight, Mr. Mayor?
Well, I'd just like to make a quick point that no one has an acre. Nobody in the city has an acre of land. I mean, there might be someone Well, I mean, there might be a few homeowners and landowners, but it's not gonna be common for, I mean, you can look at the lot sizes right there on that map. Nobody has an acre. So we're either gonna leave it alone and not, you know, this is the genie out of the bottle thing, that once we pass this, it's done. We're never gonna be able to change it back or modify it, so I'm kind of, want to point that out, that not a lot of people have an acre. And if you look at all the people that own the animals that we're questioning right now, I bet you none of them have an acre. You know, so.
Those people would, according to our current ordinance, would be in violation.
That's correct.
And they would legally need to get rid of their animals.
That's correct.
And that's the concern, is we're trying to make it so that the people that have animals, you know, to keep their animals, but at the same time, you can't just pick and choose who gets to have chickens and who doesn't just because somebody moves in here.
Right.
Then you're gonna have to prove, when did they move here? When did they get the chickens?
Right.
Or the other animals? It gets to be an even bigger deal than trying to prove whether or not an animal's weaned. My concern is, I understand the concerns of having animals on a quarter-acre lot or a half-acre lot, but the bigger concern for me is that the people who currently have it are going to be in violation of this ordinance, and then they're going to have to remove their animals, which is
Not
a whole
if they're grandfathered in.
Yeah, that's what you're saying, if they're grandfathered.
But how do you grandfather them in?
So the concept of legal grandfathering, that's not something that's given.
Yeah.
It's either there or it's not. We don't make the decision about who is or is not grandfathered. Either the use existed before the outlaw or it wasn't. So,
Right.
To Councilman Venable's point, questions, there are valid questions of when were chickens outlawed in certain residential zoning districts? When did the use commence? And whether or not that use predated the outlaw.
I do have a question talking about the new subdivisions that are coming in. A lot of those are gonna be HOAs, and would one supersede the other? As far as if they said, no, you can't have chickens and these type of animals in this, homeowners association, or would?
No, so HOA rules, whoever moves into an HOA is bound by the HOA rules.
Okay.
But it's important for the city to understand and note, the city does not have the authority or the jurisdiction to enforce those.
Okay.
So if there is an HOA, and let's say the HOA outlaws chickens, somebody brings chickens, the HOA would have to file a lawsuit against the property owner to abate that.
Okay.
The city would not be able or have any power whatsoever to get involved in that. That'd be a purely neighborhood dispute.
So I guess going back to what we're talking about with grandfathering in, how do you prove who's grandfathered and who's not?
You write citations, they go to court, and they have to establish by evidence, and the judge gets to decide whether or not that use is grandfathered or not.
Okay.
Seems to put a lot of financial hardship on the people that have animals already. If they have to go to court and defend themselves on their own dime because they had animals before this came in, not a whole lot of people can afford lawyers.
Let me also make this point. The concept of grandfathering, it's not just the June 30th, 2020 date when we adopted the current version of the UDC. There was zoning ordinances in effect.
Yeah.
So you'd have to go back and look at the historical ordinances and find out. Basically, the easiest way to determine a grandfathered use is figure out when the use started, and then from there, what rule was in effect at that particular time. That usually answers the question. My experience in this as a city solicitor in other jurisdictions, what other jurisdictions typically do is they ask the property owner to establish when the date that it started. through whether it's, receipts of when you built the pens, or, if you have transfer records of the animals, et cetera, et cetera. And then the code enforcement officer does the research, figures out what rules were in effect, and then issues a citation based or not, based upon whether or not the use was permitted.
I mean, you're correct, not everybody has an attorney, but even as much as I don't like it, the ordinance had already been stated before we even started this, that we're not supposed to have these animals, and so when people had them anyway, they were already, going against the city, sort of having them. That's what we're trying to change.
Well, so that's one of the concerns I have with it. So before we got our animals, I checked the website, I looked at every regulation on the website. We came to City Hall, said, this is where we live. Can we have these animals?
Mhm.
And we got, And so then we asked our neighbors, hey, do you have a problem with us getting these animals? Because we can't find anything that says we can't have them.
Wow.
And so we have a half an acre, that is plenty of room for the animals that we have.
Is that a half an acre clear though? That can include your house?
Then I don't,
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is our whole lot is half an acre. And that is plenty of room for the animals that we have. Like they're fenced in, they don't bother anybody. And so that's my concern with maintaining the 1 acre is, I know from a welfare perspective, my animals have plenty of room. And even the city of Atlanta allows backyard chickens. But you don't see everybody in Atlanta with backyard chickens. It's a lot of work to have them. So, I don't have chickens, but it stands that, an acre, like was mentioned, most of us don't have that. And I tried to do my due diligence and make sure that I was not in violation of any city ordinance. Well, now, I may face the decision if someone decides they don't like my ducks.
Right, I
Then
understand.
I either have to get rid of my pet or face tickets.
Yeah, when I had a couple of different, people come to me and ask for my help, and I, at that point, I didn't know what I could or couldn't do. And then that's when we started rolling from that point on. And that's just why that I specifically tried to make, provisions for people that wanted animals and that didn't want to seize your animals. And I thought that's what we had done here, but, and we need people to come to these meetings because we do not know how everybody feels about it. All we can do is guess, what the citizens want.
Mr. Crawley, you had a comment?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think what the council said, about the new ordinance being proposed, I think that's your work. If you got a 1/4 acre, you can have your 6 chickens. If you got a 1/2 acre, you can have 12 chickens or 1/2 acre above. And the roosters, they gotta go. They're supposed to be going already, but there's tons of them out there. They gotta go. And, I think that'll work. I mean, there's a lot of people on Broad Street and outside of Broad Street. They don't have but maybe a 1/4 acre, if that. And they want chickens and they got chickens. I don't think there should be a problem if they go by the rules on enclosing them and keep them safe and keep them clean, keep them fed and all that.
And, Councilmember Crawley, I want to note that it is not clear. The number, the lot size is not based upon cleared space.
Oh, it's not?
No, the entirety of the lot is a 1/4 acre.
Really?
Yes, that's the way it is currently drafted, the proposed ordinance.
Okay.
It does not require a 1/4 acre cleared in addition to the footprint.
I got you, that's what it was before, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's totally my misunderstanding.
That's the way I understood you wanting the draft to be, so that's the way it was.
Yeah, but, you did fine,
Any more comments on the, livestock, ordinance? Okay.
I just have a question, I'm sorry. Now, are you limiting the number of rabbits that one is allowed to have, or are they specific?
Yes,
We are.
there will be a limit.
There's a chart in the ordinance. We can get you a copy of it.
We know that everybody don't have this yet, we'll get to you.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank you
we'll
so
get you a
much.
copy of the ordinance.
Thank
Mayor,
you.
can you make sure this ordinance is put on the website, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would help. Like rabbits for, minimum housing enclosed 4 square feet.
per animal.
Yeah, per animal. Somebody had called in a complaint against the people that I know that have rabbits, and the actual allegations toward them was almost ridiculous. Well, no, they were ridiculous. Because I've never seen animals treated that well. Some humans don't even live that good. So,
Any more comments on the livestock? Okay, we're gonna move on to item number 2, the Ellington Farms final plat. To approve the final plat of the Ellington Farms subdivision. Understand Mr. Abe's here? Sure.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Abe Wanda, ADE Consulting, Principal Engineer. Our address is 4410 Hall Mountain Road, Suite 103, Watkinsville, Georgia. Thank you for allowing us to be here this evening. As you would see in your paperwork, we have submitted all of our documents. We've been busy since we met last time.
Good.
We've taken care of all the striping, taken care of the checklist that Mr. Jordan had developed for us to take care of. All that been done.
all the various
inspected.
systems,
Yes, ma'am, it's been inspected and it's been approved by you.
Okay.
And we have also got the, we'll get to the bonds, but we have also calculated those and submitted those to the planning administrator. And he has approved those amounts that are correct and true. And therefore, those have been ordered.
Okay.
The actual plat has been properly updated, revised to reflect all of the conditions that mayor and council have presented on those variances. And all of those documentations have been submitted. In addition, we did the flood study and established the flood elevation, and we went to the limit of a 100-year flood event, not just 25, which is typical for a culvert on the road. It's a 25-year typically, but we went ahead and did a 100-year storm event and did that study based on that, and noted that on the plat that any house, and there are 4 lots, actually 3 may be affected, but 4, the 4th one barely, and that's lots 36 through 39.
Okay.
And those have been noted on the plat that those would require the FFE finished floor elevations to be 2 foot higher than our study. Study of 100-year elevation. All that been documented, shown on the plat properly, and we're here to ask for your approval of the plat, and we will have the bonds in hand and submitted to the mayor and council or the council attorney, city attorney, for verification and be in order. One thing, if I may, just go jump to the bonds, council, is that okay, Mr. Mayor?
Sure it is.
So the bonds are broken into 3 sections here because really there are 2 sections. One is a maintenance and the other 2 are performance.
Okay.
So the maintenance bond is a 2-year requirement by code. We have that. And that's at $44,945. And the other bonds are combined because they both deal with sidewalks. One is a cart path.
Okay.
And the other one is a sidewalk. So those 2 have been combined into 1 bond. And that bond is $95,106 even.
Okay.
And that's a 4-year term bond.
Okay.
So those have been ordered to mayor, and they will be in hand prior to the coming meeting for voting. And with that, I would be glad to answer the question.
Okay. I don't have any questions.
yeah, it looks like everything that we've asked you to do, you've done, so I don't.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Just the question for you, the pond that's in the middle of that area, are you going to leave it or is it going to be filled in?
The question was if the ponds that are existing on site would be filled in or leave them alone. The answer is we could not remove them. They're part of the common open space and they're part of the environmental area. So those will be protected, maintained. If something happens to them, we have to repair them. But they will not be put in.
So the pond, is that gonna end up being part of the, community or the homeowners association? How's that work?
Yes, sir, you are correct, Mr. Mayor. It is part of the homeowners association responsibility. That is also noted on the plan.
Okay.
That they will own, maintain all of the open spaces, including the pond areas.
How are you planning to have safety around the ponds that you have over there?
Well, the ponds are actually natural. They're not steep embankments, so EPD does not require that unless you have really steep embankment, nowhere to be able to get out of an impoundment. So we have to comply with EPD requirements. Those cannot be disturbed. You can't go in there and just do whatever you want. Only if there's an issue or a breakage in the berm that we have to go in and so really, you know, there'll be trails separate and away from that for the community if they wish to do that, the homeowners. But they are there to be natural, maintained, and that's safe. So there will be education, of course, and from the homeowners association as a group to understand, you know, what you got out there. But it is not easy to walk down there if you have been to the site. And I hope you have been. You'll see the roadways in great shape. We didn't put anything but thermoplastic as far as traffic markings, so they're very lasting, extremely expensive product. But and all the signage are up. You know, we have the gates in place. There will be a central mailbox set up for the community per the obviously the post office director.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Any more questions or input?
Stock it with fish or a pond.
No, you can't fish it.
Well, that completes items 2 and 3 on our agenda for tonight. The next item on the agenda is the minute approval from the April 20th meeting of our council.
Mr. McCormick, I
Yes.
have someone that wants to speak on the citizens' input.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Oh, I basically got what I needed to say during,
Okay, that's fine.
but I will offer, just if you guys need any input from a veterinarian who's very familiar with CFR and welfare code, it's help, not as like a, hey, you guys can't do this. I was in the Army for 8 years too, so I did a lot of property inspections for that kind of stuff. So from a practical aspect, I'm just offering my assistance as a, if you want it, great, not as a, I know anything legal, blah, 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 as a veterinarian and a subject matter expert.
Do you have a business card?
I do not, but I can give you my information.
All right, well, thank you very much. That concludes the citizen input portion of our meeting tonight. Okay, now we can move on to minute approval for the April 20th meeting. I would call for a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the April 2021 minutes as written.
Okay, a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? All right, it passed unanimously. Okay, at this time, we will,
Do we have a name?
We do have a need.
we have a need for an executive session, pursuant to the attorney-client privileges provided by the Georgia Code, meaning otherwise open was closed in public in order to consult and meet with legal counsel pertaining and pending potential litigation, settlement claims, administrative proceedings, or other judicial actions brought or to be brought by or against an agency or any officer or employee, or in which the agency or officer or employee may be directly involved in the matter discussed was pending or potential litigation. I will call for a motion to go into executive session.
Motion to go into executive session for pending or potential litigation.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. All righty. We'll be back.
like to see that plant back.
Oh, yeah, we still got it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, the water's running, man, but good, something's wrong somewhere.
All right. I'm gonna call for a motion to come out of executive session.
I mean,
Ms. Hattie? Call for a second. Mr. Venable? All those in favor?
Mayor and the City Council of the City of Statham adjourned into executive session to discuss matters protected from the Open Meetings Act, specifically to discuss potential or pending litigation. No votes were taken during executive session. A copy of the affidavit and resolution will be included with the minutes.
Did everybody hear that? Okay.
Online.
All right. Now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
now second.
All right, all those in favor? Okay. Motion is adjourned. Thanks everyone for attending.